Why don't you just drown yourself and die, you wretched woman? You've stolen my son's peace. Get out of here. You have no place in this house anymore. Friends, this story comes from a village in Kanpur Dehat, India. At the far end of the village stood an old house. It belonged to Rajesh Tiwari. He wasn't poor, but he wasn't wealthy either. He had two daughters, the elder one, Radha, and the younger one, Sunita. Radha had always been kind, innocent, and well-mannered. The two sisters grew up together, sharing meals from the same plate and sleeping side by side. But as they grew older, a strange jealousy began to grow inside Sunita's heart. The reason was simple: everyone in the village constantly praised Radha. Just look at Radha. She's so gentle and humble. She's like a goddess, calm, kind, and caring. Girls like her are hard to find these days. If someone like Radha became my daughter-in-law, my home would feel like heaven. These compliments sank into Sunita's ears like poison. I'm the beautiful one. I'm the smart one. She's neither attractive nor particularly clever. Then why does everyone keep praising her? Sunita would think. Radha knew how her sister felt, but she remained silent. She always told herself, Sunita is my younger sister. One day she'll understand. As time passed, Rajesh Tiwari called both of his daughters to sit with him. My daughters, he said, the time has come for both of you to get married. Radha lowered her eyes shyly, but Sunita's face lit up with excitement. Soon afterward, a marriage proposal arrived for Radha. The groom's name was Raghav. He was poor and worked in the fields, but he was honest, hardworking, and kind-hearted. When Sunita heard that Raghav was poor and worked as a farmer, she burst into laughter and said, "Wow, big sister. Looks like big sister ended up with a farmer who works in the fields. Your life is going to be wonderful now, isn't it? Then again, you've always enjoyed doing hard labor." Radha said nothing in response to Sunita's mocking words. But Rajesh Tiwari spoke up. "So what if he's poor? He's hard-working, honest, and kind-hearted. And I know Radha will be very happy with him." Radha lowered her head respectfully and said, "Yes, father. I trust that you have made the right decision for me." A few days later, a marriage proposal came for Sunita. The groom, Nikhil, was a wealthy businessman. He owned a beautiful mansion, had servants, and enjoyed every luxury imaginable. The moment Sunita heard about him, her pride grew even stronger. "See, father," she said. "Even fate knows who deserves what." Mr. Tiwari chose not to respond. He knew his daughter's nature all too well. Soon, the wedding dates were set, and both sisters got married. After the wedding, Radha moved into Raghav's home. It was a small house with a thatched roof, a worn-out kitchen, and a few sacks of grain stored in one corner. Raghav gently said, "Radha, I may not have much, but I promise I'll do everything I can to make sure you never lack anything." Radha smiled and replied, "Raghav, I don't need anything. Having your companionship is enough for me." Meanwhile, when Sunita arrived at her new home, she was amazed by the luxurious mansion and the shiny cars parked outside. "Wow," she thought. "So much wealth and prestige. All of this belongs to me now. My life is going to be nothing but comfort and luxury. Radha won't even be able to look me in the eye anymore." The intoxication of wealth and status doubled Sunita's arrogance. One day she called out to a servant, "Hey, Lajo. Why didn't you clean my room properly?" "But, young mistress, I cleaned it thoroughly this morning." "So now you're calling me a liar? You're a servant, act like one. Go clean the room again. And tell someone to bring me some coconut water." "Yes, young mistress. I'll tell them right away." Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Soon, the festival of Tej arrived. Both sisters returned to their parents' home for the celebration. Radha wore a simple sari, while Sunita arrived dressed in an elegant silk lehenga. Her wrists were adorned with colorful bangles, and a gold necklace sparkled around her neck. Several village women had gathered to perform the Tej rituals. At that moment, Sunita mocked her sister in front of everyone. "So, Radha, tell me how things are going. Does brother-in-law Raghav at least manage to feed you properly, or not?" "Oh, I completely forgot. They can barely afford food for themselves. How are they supposed to feed you?" Sunita's harsh words broke Radha's heart. But Sunita took great pleasure in humiliating her sister. By evening, both sisters returned to their respective homes. Days passed, but life was not easy for Radha. She woke up before sunrise every morning, lit the stove, prepared meals, and then went to the fields with her husband, Raghav. There, she worked hard all day long. By the time evening arrived, she was completely exhausted. Yet she never complained. One day, Raghav asked her, "Radha, are you upset with me?" "Why would I be?" she asked. "Because I can't give you the comfortable life you may have dreamed of." Radha quickly replied, "Oh no, why would you say that? I have a husband who loves me so much. What more could I ask for? As long as we are together, this difficult time will pass." Raghav smiled and said, "All right then. Today I'm going to cook dinner. You sit down and rest." Radha laughed. "No, no, I'll make it." "How could you possibly cook?" "Why not?" Raghav replied playfully. "Today, I'm going to cook a meal for my lovely wife with my own hands. You just sit back and relax." So Raghav lit the stove, prepared the food himself, and even fed Radha with his own hands. While Raghav showered Radha with love and affection, Sunita, on the other hand, enjoyed every luxury imaginable. Yet there was one thing missing from her life: her husband's love and respect. One day, after taking a bath, Sunita came out without covering her head with her veil. Her mother-in-law saw her and immediately scolded her. "Didn't your parents teach you anything about how a daughter-in-law should behave in her husband's home? Do you have any manners at all? You're not a little girl anymore. You are the daughter-in-law of this family now. At least show some respect for the traditions of this household." Sunita quietly replied, "Mother, it was a mistake. I'll be more careful from now on." Her mother-in-law snapped back. "Careful? What nonsense. I don't know what they saw in a girl like you before marrying you to my precious son. A poor, uncultured village girl." Hearing those words shattered Sunita's heart. She had received all the luxury and comfort she had ever wanted, but in exchange, she had lost the love and respect she truly needed. In the beginning, Sunita's life seemed no less than that of a queen. She had expensive saris, jewelry, servants, and every comfort money could buy. But slowly she began to realize that without a husband's love, all those things felt incomplete. Nikhil spent the entire day at his business. Every evening, he returned home exhausted, ate dinner, and went straight to bed. Finally, frustrated, Sunita said to him one day, "Why don't you make any time for me?" Nikhil listened to Sunita and replied in a stern voice, "You're a woman, so act like one. Stop asking so many questions. You already have a life of comfort and luxury. That should be enough for you." Sunita, who had always been proud of her beauty, felt her pride shatter after hearing those words. A few days passed like this, and then news came that one of Nikhil's major business orders had been cancelled, causing a huge financial loss. Nikhil told his mother, "Mom, the business has suffered a major setback. The large order we received was suddenly cancelled by the client. We had invested heavily in it using borrowed money. Now we are drowning in debt." Kamla tried to encourage him. Don't worry, son. Everything will work out soon. Ups and downs are a part of business. But as the days passed, Nikhil's debts continued to grow. Many customers failed to repay the money they owed him on time, leaving a large portion of his funds tied up. Soon, even Kamla's attitude began to change. Daughter-in-law, stop dressing up so much. Try to understand the family's situation. Give me your jewelry, it may be useful in times of need. Without saying a word, Sunita removed all her jewelry and handed it over to her mother-in-law. The woman who had once lived like a queen suddenly found herself living more like a servant. Meanwhile, Raghav made an important decision. Radha, he said, we can't depend only on farming anymore. We need to do something else as well. Radha immediately supported him. Of course. Whatever you think is right, I'm with you. I'll support every decision you make. Raghav nodded. Then it's settled. I'm going to rent a small shop in the city. We'll grow fresh fruits and vegetables in our fields and sell them there. We'll earn much more than we do by selling through the wholesale market. Radha smiled. That's a wonderful idea. Don't worry, I'm with you. We'll work hard together. And so, the two of them began growing vegetables and produce with even greater dedication. Instead of selling everything in the wholesale market, Raghav started taking the fresh produce directly to city customers. One evening, after returning from the city market, Raghav called out excitedly. Radha! Come outside for a moment. Hearing his voice, Radha stepped out of the house and saw several bags hanging from his hands. What happened? She asked curiously. You seem very happy today, Radha said. Raghav smiled and replied. Of course I'm happy, Radha. It's wonderful news. Do you know how much I sold today? I sold **10,000 rupees worth of vegetables, **. Radha's face lit up. That's amazing. If things keep going like this, we'll become wealthy very soon. Raghav shook his head and said. Yes, Radha, but none of this would have been possible without you. If you hadn't stood by me, I probably could never have done this. Radha smiled warmly. Oh, come on. There's no need to say that. I'm your wife, and I'll always stand by every decision you make. Then she looked at the bags in his hands and asked. All right, enough of that. Tell me, what's in those bags? Raghav grinned. First, let's go inside. Then I'll show you. The two of them went inside the house. Handing the bags to Radha, Raghav said. Radha, this is the first gift I've ever bought for you. When Radha opened the bags, she found two beautiful saris inside. Surprised, she asked. Are these really for me? Raghav replied with a straight face. No, they are for the neighbor. Hearing that, a slight look of anger appeared on Radha's face. Fine then. Go give them to her and don't talk to me. Raghav burst into laughter. Oh, my dear Radha, I'm just joking. Of course they are for you. Do you really think my eyes could look at anyone but you? Hearing that, Radha couldn't help but smile. As time went on, Raghav's earnings steadily increased. Radha began managing the household accounts and carefully saved every rupee she could. They were still not rich, but they no longer lacked anything. Their income had started to exceed their basic needs. A few months later, on the anniversary of their mother's passing, both sisters returned to their parents' home. This time, both of them were dressed in simple saris. Rajesh asked, My daughters, how are you both doing? Sunita quickly answered, I am doing perfectly fine, father. Why would anything be wrong with me? Then she added sarcastically, But I don't know about Radha. Working all day long must have left her exhausted and miserable. Radha smiled calmly and replied, "No, little sister, things aren't like that anymore. Raghav started a new business, and by God's grace, it's doing very well. In fact, we are planning to buy a new house soon." Hearing this, Sunita's jealousy grew even stronger. Meanwhile, Nikhil's financial condition continued to worsen. The family sold their jewelry and valuables, and eventually even the servants had to be let go. Now Kamla's frustration began falling entirely on Sunita. Day and night, she taunted her. "You useless girl. Why don't you ask your parents for some help? Tell your father to support his son-in-law, so your husband's troubles can be eased a little." Sunita quietly replied, "But mother, my father is just a simple farmer. He doesn't have any wealth. Whatever little savings he had was spent on our weddings. How could he possibly help us?" Her mother-in-law said, "We made a huge mistake by marrying Nikhil to you. If we had chosen a girl from a respectable and wealthy family, they would at least have helped him in times like these." Those words hit Sunita hard. For the first time, she realized that the wealth and status she had once been so proud of had never truly belonged to her. She had been valued no more than a servant. The lives of the two sisters were now taking very different paths. While Radha's life was moving toward happiness and prosperity, Sunita's life was slowly falling apart. One stormy night, heavy rain poured outside. Sunita sat alone in a corner of the kitchen. Her eyes were swollen from crying. In her mind, she could still hear her mother-in-law's cruel words echoing. "Why don't you just drown yourself and die, you wretched woman? You've stolen my son's peace. You've ruined our family. You brought neither money from your parents' house nor any good fortune. You're nothing but bad luck." Nikhil heard all of this, but he remained silent. His silence was the hardest blow of all. Sunita felt as though her entire existence had been crushed into dust. The next morning, Nikhil's business shut down completely. Creditors were standing at the door, demanding repayment. The family was now on the verge of losing their house. Her mother-in-law glared at her and said, "Go back to your parents' house. You have no place here anymore. We don't have the money to feed you." By then, Sunita's pride had been completely shattered. Without saying a word, she packed her suitcase and left for her parents' home, crying the entire way. When she arrived, Rajesh Tiwari was shocked to see her. "Sunita, my child, what happened? Why have you come alone? And why are there tears in your eyes? Tell me what's wrong." The moment she heard her father's voice, Sunita broke down completely.
"Father, I've lost everything. They threw me out of the house. To them, I was nothing more than a servant. I'm homeless now. I don't belong anywhere anymore." Rajesh gently comforted her. "It's all right, my child. Don't cry. Your father is still alive. Come inside." He brought her into the house, but she continued crying uncontrollably. Worried, Rajesh called his elder daughter. "Radha, my daughter, how are you?" "I'm fine, father. But you don't sound all right. What happened?" "Radha, Sunita's in-laws have thrown her out of the house." He explained everything that had happened. Radha immediately replied, "Don't worry, father. I'm coming right away." By the time Radha reached her parents' home, it was already night. She went straight to Sunita's room. Sunita was sitting against a wall, crying. Trying to lighten the mood, Radha said, "Oh, so our fierce little warrior has become so weak that she's given up and started crying." Sunita looked up at her. Her eyes were filled with helplessness and regret. Suddenly, she got up and fell at Radha's feet. "Sister, please forgive me. I treated you terribly, and perhaps God is punishing me for it now." Seeing her sister like this, Radha was stunned. Through tears, Sunita continued, "I always tried to put you down. I mocked your poverty and made fun of your life. But today, I've become a joke myself. Everything that has happened to me is the result of my own actions. I'm suffering the consequences of what I did. Radha gently lifted her up and comforted her. Don't cry, my little sister. Sisters argue with each other, they fight, they get angry. But that doesn't mean we are separate from each other, or that we hate one another. Now stop crying. Sunita wiped her tears and said, No, sister. Now I finally understand that a person is judged not by money, but by their character and behavior. Hearing this, tears filled Radha's eyes as well. She hugged Sunita tightly and said, You silly girl. Sisters don't ask each other for forgiveness, they support each other. Now stop crying, or I'll have to scold you myself. The next day, Radha spoke with Raghav. Raghav, I want Sunita to work with us. It will help her move on from all this and rebuild her life. Without hesitation, Raghav replied. Of course, Radha. Do whatever you think is right. Sunita is your sister, which means she's my sister too. And so, Sunita began working alongside Radha and Raghav with dedication. She woke up early every morning, went to the fields, watered the vegetables, harvested them, and accompanied Raghav to the city to sell them at the shop. The work was hard. Her hands became rough and blistered. Her back ached constantly. One day, overwhelmed and exhausted, Sunita broke down in tears. Radha, I can't do this. This kind of work is beyond me. I'm not as strong as you are. Radha encouraged her. Don't give up, Sunita. I had to learn too. You'll learn soon enough. And trust me, one day success will be at your feet. Time passed, and Sunita gradually grew stronger and more confident. By working with Radha and Raghav, she managed to save some money. Eventually, she decided to open a restaurant of her own. Raghav and Radha fully supported her dream. A few months later, Radha and Sunita opened a restaurant together as business partners in the city. The restaurant became a huge success. Before long, the two sisters became well known as the *** startup icon girls *** of the region. Around that time, Nikhil arrived at Rajesh Tiwari's house. He greeted everyone respectfully and asked, Where is Sunita? Rajesh glared at him and replied angrily, What do you want with Sunita now? Wasn't the pain you caused her enough? Have you come back just to rub salt into her wounds? Nikhil said in a sad voice. Please don't say that, father. I admit that I made a huge mistake. But I've come here today to take Sunita back with me. At that time, I was under so much pressure that I couldn't tell right from wrong. Rajesh replied, My son, if a man couldn't understand right from wrong even after living with my daughter for so long and ended up abandoning her, how can I send her back with him? You and your mother treated my daughter like an object, not a human being, and threw her out of your house. Lowering his head in shame, Nikhil said, I realize my mistake now. I promise I will never do anything like that again. Just then, Radha and Sunita arrived. Radha looked at him and asked, Nikhil, what are you doing here? He replied, I've come to take Sunita back with me. Staring at him, Radha said, After everything you've done, wasn't that enough? You still had the nerve to come back. Nikhil snapped. Radha, stay out of this. I'm talking to Sunita. Don't interfere between us. Hearing this, Sunita responded sharply. Mr. Nikhil, mind your manners. You're speaking to my elder sister. And tell me something, why did you suddenly remember me today? Nikhil replied. Sunita, I've realized my mistakes. That's why I've come to take you back. Looking directly into his eyes, Sunita said. Nikhil, I know you very well. Now that I have wealth, success, and recognition, suddenly you remember me. You're nothing but a greedy person. Nikhil angrily replied. Watch your words, Sunita. You're insulting me. Sunita answered firmly. An insult only matters to someone who has honor. People like you have none. Now please leave. Otherwise, we'll have to throw you out. As he walked away, Nikhil shouted. You'll all regret